So after 4 months and hundreds of hours of gaming, Xbox Series X, what do I think about it? Let's do this. So first up, let's talk power. On paper at least, the Xbox Series X is the most powerful home console ever made. We're talking an 8-core Zen 2 CPU and a 12 teraflop GPU based on the RDNA 2 architecture. This means that it's roughly about 20% more powerful than the PlayStation 5. Next up, let's talk about the Xbox's design. So it's very minimal, very sleek and ridiculously quiet. I do have a couple of gripes with it, but before we get into that, I do actually really like the design. It's very minimal, very understated, and I think that that's the best design that they've probably done for a home console. Now, the things that I don't like about the Xbox design is it doesn't look quite right when it's sat horizontally. So I think a lot of people, if they can, they'll probably choose to have it sat vertically. Another small gripe that I have is that even though it's really cool, the effect that the vents have with the green, I think it would have been even better if they had implemented some form of light or LEDs that actually glowed when it was on. Because, I mean, apart from the little Xbox logo turning on, you can't actually tell whether the console's on or not by just how quiet this beast is. Talking about the vents, though the fans are really quiet, when the console does turn on, there is a considerable amount of heat that does come out. Now, it's nothing to be worried about, but you can genuinely feel the heat. There have been occasions where I have touched the console, even when it's completely off, well, idle in rest mode, and you can feel that it is warm to the touch. Again, this is nothing to be concerned about, but I think it's a good thing for you guys to know. Now, some of you might be wondering why the console would be warm to the touch when it's in rest mode. Well, that's because I've got it set up to download games in the background, and the reason why I've done this is because I don't really like to wait for stuff to download when I want to get into a game, especially when updates nowadays are like 20 gigabytes, or in the case of Call of Duty, it's 100 gigabytes. I mean, what gives, Activision? What gives? But overall, in terms of the aesthetics of the console, I don't think I'd actually change anything about it. Now, I would probably add some form of LED to the vents, but that's about it. Let me know if there's anything that you guys would like to change about the current Xbox. So now let's talk about the UI and the dashboard. Now, when I first jumped into the Xbox Series X dashboard, I was slightly confused because I wasn't entirely sure if I was actually on the Series X or my One X. As you can see, the dashboard has not changed. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there are a few things that I think Microsoft could have done to actually improve and step the dashboard forward. By this, what I mean is things like quick resume, which are only found on the Series X and the Series S. There is no actual UI indication that a game is loaded into the quick resume cache, but that is a limitation of, I guess, trying to have a uniform UI design across both generations. And I think it's small things like this that are really holding the Series X and S from feeling truly next gen in terms of how you interface with the console. So I do feel like there are parts of the dashboard that do feel a bit clunky and outdated. And again, I think this is at the detriment of trying to have a unified UI across both generations. But one thing that definitely isn't clunky is how quick the Series X goes from a cold boot to being able to load games. It is fast, stupidly fast. And this works for any game, whether it be an Xbox Series X/S optimized game or a backwards compatible game. Games just load stupidly fast compared to the previous generation. And I think, again, that is a testament to just the raw power that the Series X brings to gaming. I know a lot of people will say, what's the point of being able to play an older game on a new console? That's not really the reason why you go out and buy a brand new generation of console. But this is where I think a lot of people are missing one of the biggest features on the Series X and S. So this brings me on to some of the special features that this generation of Xbox brings with it. So as we were just talking about backwards compatibility, let's start with that. Now, I don't know what Microsoft has done, but the backwards compatibility on the Xbox this generation is nothing like I've experienced before. The games literally take advantage of the power that's housed within this small little unit. Now, what this means is that your games look better, they feel better, the frame rates are better, the load times are better, and I think this is something that a lot of people are overlooking. The fact that you can take an old game, put it in a new box, and it feels completely different is a huge, huge bonus for us gamers that have a huge backlog of games to get through. Now, another feature is Quick Resume, and Quick Resume is a game changer. Literally being able to be in the middle of a race in Dirt 5 and then hop into a mission in Red Dead Redemption and then hop right back to the race in Dirt 5 is mind-blowing. And I think this is a huge feature that some other next-gen consoles are missing out on and should really look to implement. Now, the one issue that I do have with Quick Resume goes back to the dashboard/UI again, and that is there's no real way of deciphering what is actually saved in the Quick Resume cache. Now, that's an issue because you don't know whether or not you're going to be thrown to the start menu or whether you're still going to be in the mission of your game. Granted, if it's a game you've played recently and you're not playing it online or anything like that, you most likely will be brought back to the position you left the game in. But again, a simple tick on the screen or something like that to just let you know that this game is saved in the Quick Resume cache is beneficial and should have been implemented from day one, and it's still not here. Another cool feature is something called Smart Delivery, which basically ensures that no matter if you're playing on the One X, Series X, Series S, you get the best version of that game for the console you are playing it on. And I'm not sure how it works. It works in the background. Maybe it's magic? Now, what about the controller? Well, if you're coming from the last generation, there isn't really much to talk about. But there are a few things worth mentioning that you might notice is that the new controller is slightly smaller than the previous generation. Not by much, but I can certainly feel it. And I've never had an issue with the previous generation of controllers, but this one does feel a bit more comfortable in my hands. The D-pad's also changed, and it's a lot more clicky. The base of the control pad is also textured, and this extends to the triggers as well as the bumpers, which make it beneficial for long play sessions where you might get slippery hands due to sweat. Though the battery is excellent, I don't understand why we are still using disposable batteries in 2021. This probably has to do with the business deal that Microsoft and Duracell have together, but still, a replaceable battery pack isn't much to ask for. The thing to note is that we've moved towards USB-C on these generations of Xbox pads. Now, the most important part of every console, the multimedia apps. I mean the games. Is there a lack of games? Yeah, for sure. But again, backwards compatibility breathes new life into these old games. Last gen, there were too many bottlenecks, and now I think we might have reached peak graphics, but the biggest issue was loading times and performance. Series X essentially fixes all these performance issues and adds a bit of polish on top of that as well. But I really cannot wait to see what Bethesda and the rest of the Xbox gaming studios bring to the table. Now, I can't talk about games without talking about Game Pass. Game Pass is basically the Netflix of video games. If you have an Xbox, then you need Game Pass just for the first party titles alone, it makes it worth it. And Game Pass, married with quick resume, is basically Netflix. Just being able to hop in and out of different games on the fly. Fantastic. Sad reality of this is there isn't really any must-have games on the Series X that you can't get on the One X or Xbox One generation of consoles. And I think it's going to be like this for a while. I mean, Halo got delayed, and even that is a cross-gen title. And I think it's a good thing it got delayed. I mean, after, Cyberpunk. But again, I'm playing through my backlog of games, and they all do feel so much better on this generation of console than they did on the last gen of console. But again, I am patiently waiting to see what Bethesda bring to this generation of console, as well as all the other Microsoft gaming studios. So with that being said, should you buy one now or should you wait? Well, that's probably one of the easiest questions to answer. These are really hard to find right now, especially at retail prices. So unless you've got tons of money, wait until they're more readily available at retail. Well, at retail prices anyway. Well, let's say that you are able to find one at retail. Should you pull the trigger and buy one? Well, that depends. If you've got a huge backlog of games that you want to get through, the money to be able to spend, and Game Pass sounds amazing to you, then by all means, yeah, go for it. You will not regret it. I mean, I don't. However, if you only get the big games, the Halos, the Call of Duties, the Gears of Wars, I would recommend that you wait. The quality of life improvements will not make up for the lack of content that you desire. Now, should you get a Series X or a Series S? That's a question for another time and another video. So, what do I think? I honestly think this is by far the best Xbox that Microsoft have ever shipped. I think they thought of a lot of things that just improve your gaming experience, from the way the unboxing experience goes to things like quick resume. It just makes our lives as gamers better, more fun, and easier. That being said, I do feel like they've fallen short on some of the next gen stuff. I think what they've done is they've looked at the Xbox One generation and said, yeah, let's do this, but more, and not necessarily different, which to some people might be a great thing, but I think for us as a cohesive community of gamers isn't necessarily the best thing for us all. So overall, how would I rate the Xbox? Well, before I go into my actual rating, I took time to think of a rating system that I think will work for both me and you guys. I wanted it to be simple and effective, and so in my normal day-to-day gaming life, if a game gets an 8 or above, that's an instant pickup for me. If a game gets a 5 to 7, that's a pickup maybe if it's heavily discounted, and anything below a 5, hell no. Do not come near me at all. So with that being said, I think my rating system for this channel would simply be a thumbs up and a thumbs down. Simple as that. And with the Xbox Series X, it gets a thumbs up. Instant buy for me, evidently. And I think for those people that love Xbox, you will not be disappointed at all. This is by far the best Xbox ever released. And it just needs the software to really show us what all this power can really do. But that's it from me, guys. Please like, share, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next week with my review of this bad boy.